Welcome, my dear Spookies, to another episode of Wicked Wonderland. Tonight's true life tales of terror dwell on the most innocent of us, children. Living, they are often adorable. Ghostly children, however, are both tragic and terrifying. I'll not keep you waiting any longer, my Spookies. On to the tales. The eerie atmosphere in my new house was unsettling. It was an old Victorian home that had recently been renovated, yet it retained its haunting charm. As I settled in, strange occurrences began to unfold, leaving me questioning my sanity. It started innocently enough, with faint whispers that I dismissed as a mere figment of my imagination. However, those whispers soon evolved into clear and audible words. I would hear a child's voice whispering my name when I was alone, echoing through the empty halls. Each time I would search for the source, but found nothing. One evening, as I prepared dinner, I caught a glimpse of movement out of the corner of my eye. I turned to find a small, pale figure dart past the entrance to the kitchen. It looked like a child, not more than 7 years old. My heart rate quickened, and I was gripped with an inexplicable fear. Driven by both fear and curiosity, I followed the fleeting figure down the long, shadowy hallway. The house seemed to come alive with creaking floorboards and flickering lights as I ventured deeper into the darkness. The child's giggles echoed through the corridor, sending chills down my spine. Reaching the end of the hallway, I found myself in a disheveled, abandoned playroom. The air felt heavy, as if laden with sorrow, and cobwebs covered forgotten toys. Dust-strewn teddy bears stared at me with their vacant eyes, creating an unsettling atmosphere. With trembling fingers, I reached out to touch a doll on a nearby shelf. It felt ice-cold, as if drained of all life. Suddenly, the room felt suffocating, as if an invisible grip was tightening around my throat. Panic surged within me, and I raced out of the room, desperate to escape the chilling presence lurking within those walls. Sleep became an elusive luxury. Every night as I lay in bed, I could hear the sound of tiny footsteps approaching my room. The doorknob would twist, turning slowly, unlocking the door as if by some unseen force. Peeking out from beneath my covers, I would see the ghostly figure of a child, staring at me with hollow eyes. Paralyzed with fear, I could not move or speak. The child's pallid skin seemed translucent, and old-fashioned clothing clung to its frail frame. Its blackened lips curled into a soulless smile, as if relishing the terror it instilled within me. As the weeks passed, the spirit grew bolder, its presence extending beyond my bedroom door. It would stand at the foot of my bed, watching intently as I tossed and turned in restless sleep. Sometimes, it would even reach out its hand, ice-cold fingers grazing my forehead, sending shivers down my spine. Haunted and desperate for answers, I researched the history of the house. My search led me to a tragic tale that had unfolded within these very walls. A young girl named Emily had tragically perished in a fire, a victim of her unloving parents' negligence. Consumed by guilt and regret, Emily's spirit had become trapped within the house. Armed with newfound understanding, I decided to confront the child's spirit. Determined to help her find peace, I sought professional help, consulting a medium who specialized in paranormal investigations. With the medium's guidance, we attempted to communicate with Emily, offering her reassurance and love in hope of easing her tormented soul. Days turned into weeks, and the encounters became less frequent. Eventually, Emily's presence disappeared altogether, leaving behind an ethereal stillness in the house. Though her ghostly visits had terrified me, I couldn't help but feel a touch of sadness as I bid farewell to the lost spirit. As I sit here, recounting the horrors of my encounters with Emily, I realize that some ghosts are trapped between worlds, longing for peace and closure. We must remember that even in death, they are also victims of tragedy, yearning for understanding, compassion and release. I couldn't believe my luck when I stumbled upon the perfect house. It was modern, spacious, and most importantly, affordable. The realtor explained that the previous owners had experienced some odd occurrences, which explained the low price. But being a skeptic, I brushed it off, thinking it was just superstition. As the moving day approached, excitement and anticipation filled the air. My partner Sarah and I spent hours arranging furniture and adding personal touches to our new home. It felt like a dream come true. Little did we know, our dream would soon turn into a nightmare. One gloomy evening, as we sat in our cozy living room with a roaring fire. The wind howled outside, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Suddenly I heard a faint whisper coming from the hallway. "I'm playing hide and seek. Come find me." My heart skipped a beat. "Did you hear that?" I asked Sarah, trying to keep my voice steady. She looked at me with a perplexed expression. "Hear what?" I chalked it up to my imagination and decided to investigate. An unsettling feeling washed over me as I ventured down the dimly lit corridor. The whisper grew louder and more distinct, leading me towards the room of our future child. But something was off. We didn't have any children yet. Pushing the thought aside, I opened the door to the empty room, my heart pounding in my chest. The voice was deafening now, echoing from within the darkness. "Where are you?" The room turned ice cold and I swear I could hear faint giggling. Suddenly, a reflection caught my eye in the mirror. It was a child, pale and translucent, standing right behind me. My breath caught in my throat as I stumbled backward, paralyzed with fear. The ghostly child with lifeless eyes and a permanent smile pointed towards the walk-in closet. "Come find me, if you dare." My legs quivered, but curiosity got the better of me. Digging deep, I found the courage to open the closet door. Inside, I discovered a small photo album hidden among old clothes. Each picture revealed a smiling child, growing progressively older. As I flipped through the pages, something caught my attention. The child's face began to change, morphing into a more sinister expression with each photograph. Beads of sweat formed on my forehead as I tried to comprehend what I was seeing. Was this the ghostly child haunting us? And if so, what did it want? That night, sleep was a distant dream. Sarah and I lay awake, tormented by the events unfolding in our home. Shadows danced ominously across our bedroom walls, and the air grew heavier with each passing minute. We decided to research the history of the house, hoping for some answers. It turned out that a tragedy had occurred before we moved in. A decade ago, a child named Lisa had lived here with her disturbed family. One stormy night, her parents' sanity snapped, and they brutally murdered her before taking their own lives. My blood ran cold at the realization that Lisa was the ghostly child we had encountered. It was clear to us now. She was trapped in our home, desperate to return to the land of the living. Days turned into weeks, and our lives became a living nightmare. Objects moved on their own, whispers filled the hallways, and Sarah awoke with scratches on her body. The once beautiful modern house now resembled a haunted mansion from a horror film. One night, Sarah woke me with a trembling voice, her eyes filled with fear. I saw her, Lisa. She was standing at the edge of our bed, staring at me. Fear consumed me, but I knew we had to find a way to help Lisa find peace. Researching further, we stumbled upon a medium known to have dealt with restless spirits in the past. The medium arrived with a confident smile, explaining her plan to communicate with Lisa. As we gathered in the living room, she prepared her tools and closed her eyes. The air grew colder as the medium began to speak in a voice that wasn't her own. "Lisa, we're here to help you find peace. Let go of this world and move on." A chilling silence filled the room, and suddenly, an ethereal figure materialized before us. Lisa, her sad smile slowly fading, reached out her translucent hand. The medium continued speaking, guiding her towards the light. In that moment, a sense of calm washed over our home. Sarah and I both felt an immense relief, as if a weight had been lifted. We knew Lisa had finally found the peace she had been searching for. Our modern house, once a place filled with darkness, was finally ours again. As we moved forward, we would never forget the ghostly child who had haunted our lives, nor the inexplicable bond we formed during those terrifying nights. I woke up to the sound of my daughter Emma giggling, her sweet little voice echoing through the house. Confused, I sat up in bed and glanced at the clock. It was just past midnight, and the house was shrouded in an eerie darkness. I swung my legs over the side of the bed, slipping into my slippers before making my way toward Emma's room. As I stepped into the hallway, a chill ran down my spine. Something felt off. The air was thick, heavy, as if charged with a supernatural presence. I pushed open the door to Emma's room, finding her small bed empty. Panic tore through my chest, and I rushed through the house, desperately calling out for her. My heart raced, thumping against my ribcage as I reached the living room, and there I found her, standing in the middle of the room, facing an antique mirror that had been in the family for generations. She was giggling uncontrollably, her tiny frame bathed in the pale moonlight seeping through the curtains. "Emma, what are you doing? It's the middle of the night," I said, my voice trembling with unease. She turned to face me, her eyes wide with a combination of excitement and fear. "Mommy, look, it's my new friend, he's so pretty." I looked into the mirror, and my heart skipped a beat. There, standing beside Emma, was a ghostly child, pale, translucent, and with lifeless eyes that seemed to pierce my soul. His presence emanated a malevolent energy that filled me with dread. "Emma, come away from there," I whispered, my voice shaking. But she didn't respond, too engrossed in her conversations with the ghostly child. Over the following nights, things took a sinister turn. Objects flew across the room, doors slammed shut on their own, and chilling whispers echoed through the house when no one was speaking. Emma's normal demeanor shifted. She became distant, giggling less, and spending more time talking to her invisible companion. Deeply concerned, I researched the history of our house, hoping to find an explanation for the bizarre occurrences. It didn't take long before I discovered that years ago, a young boy named Samuel had tragically died in the same house. His spirit was said to haunt those who dared to disturb his eternal slumber. Fear settled deep within me as I realized our encounter with Emma's ghostly friend was no mere coincidence. Samuel had latched onto my daughter, drawing energy from her innocence, her laughter. The nights grew darker, a chilling aura enveloping our abode. Emma's behavior became increasingly erratic, her giggles replaced by fits of tears. Samuel, the ghostly child, demanded her devotion, her loyalty, and it seemed he would stop at nothing to possess her completely. One particular evening, I found Emma in her bedroom, cradling a worn-out teddy bear. She held it close to her chest, her eyes filled with a mix of fear and sadness. "Mummy, Samuel told me the only way to make him leave is to give him someone to play with forever," she whispered, her voice quivering. My heart broke as I realized the depth of her desperation. I knew then that I had to confront Samuel, to free my daughter from his ghostly grasp. That very night, armed with sage and holy water, I stood before the antique mirror, determined to rid our house of Samuel's presence. With every prayer and blessing, the room crackled with energy, pushing back against the malicious entity that had tormented us for far too long. Suddenly, the room fell silent. Samuel's laughter echoed through the house, his footsteps fading into the distance. I knew then that he was gone, banished to the ethereal plane from which he came. Relief washed over me, and as I turned to leave, I found Emma standing behind me, her eyes free from Samuel's malevolent influence. She smiled, her innocence restored. "Mummy, he's gone," she whispered, her voice strong and sure. "Yes, darling, he's gone," I replied, taking her hand in mine. "We are finally safe." But deep down, I couldn't help but wonder if our encounter with Samuel was truly over. As the winds whispered in the night, carrying traces of his haunting laughter, a chill crawled up my spine. A haunting reminder that some spirits never truly leave, lingering in the darkest corners of our minds, patiently awaiting their chance to return. I can't help but admit to a shiver of fear after hearing those stories, but also an ache in my heart for the tragedy that befell those poor children. I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing, and click the bell icon so you don't miss new episodes. Thank you for listening, and as always, stay spooky.